This was a day of heavy tread, etching itself into old stone and the chronicles of history. Britain's farewell for a queen like no other. Elizabeth II's coffin was borne to Westminster Abbey by 142 Royal Navy sailors on a ceremonial gun carriage. The mourning party once more led by her 4 children. Hundreds of world leaders and dignitaries attended the state funeral, testament to the Queen's global reach. Despite the soaring grandeur of the service, the Archbishop of Canterbury sought to define the simple qualities of the woman behind the crown.
In all cases, those who serve will be loved and remembered when those who cling to power and privileges are long forgotten.
Also in the Abbey, British Prime Ministers past, one of whom once described the Queen as a golden thread running through the generations. The route of her funeral cortege seemed to weave a final tapestry, young and old crowding the avenues and places so familiar to the Queen during a 70-year reign. People watched the funeral on their phones as they waited for the procession to reach them. After more than a week of official mourning, the drum beat of the funeral dirge is by now familiar.
It was very emotional. I think despite seeing the last few days of preparation, I felt definitely a lump in my throat when she went past. It makes you realise she's been there all our life and will ever be the same again.
The first glimpse of the funeral procession for many came in a flash of red, Royal Canadian Mounted Police at its head. Some members of the Order of Canada were also guests at the funeral, part of Canada's delegation.
But the moment for me was the first time I sang God Save the King. And I actually made a mistake. Like, just out of my mouth came, at the very end when I stopped reading the lyrics, came God Save the Queen, because it was so natural and intuitive. And I actually kind of burst into a little moment of tears at that. Just sort of thought, wow, I need to catch up.
When the procession reached Hyde Park Corner and the Wellington Arch, the Queen's coffin was transferred to a hearse, one last journey to make, a homecoming of sorts at Windsor Castle, and another service, this one at St. George's Chapel, smaller, more intimate, and more finite, as the instruments of state presented to the Queen at her coronation were removed from the coffin. As it was lowered into the royal vault for a private burial later, a lone piper playing a lament slowly disappeared from view, like a last glimpse of the Queen herself. The mourners inside left to sing the national anthem. King Charles, now the new monarch, but also a son, laying his mother to rest.
So Margaret, ever since, the stunning news of the Queen's death, people have just been busy. There was planning to do, there was mourning to happen, and I suppose now everyone is confronting the matter of what next.
That's right. It's like the country has been on hold. And I met some trepidation out in the crowds. People are worried about losing this link that was a link between generations, and she was so linked to Britain's global identity. People are worried that King Charles might not be able to carry that off. On the other hand, you would meet people who would say, if the Queen were here, she would say, get on with it. And that's what they've got to do.
All right, he has his work cut out for him. Margaret,
Indeed.
thank you.
Thanks for having me.